It just takes a dedication of a handful of people to make a difference. We're at about 2,700 feet in the southern Appalachian Mountains, just off a small side valley called Hyatt Creek, just outside of Waynesville, North Carolina, about 30 miles west of Asheville. And we have 3 plantings in the area, one at Junaluska, at the Botanical Gardens there, and then one about 700, 800 feet higher up on the mountain. And these are going to get repotted, and I'll have find a home for them, hopefully, where these are different genetics than what are already established, just to try to maintain any diversity. I was interested in endangered species, and there's a bunch of them in Florida, and I settled on 3. Torreya was going extinct in the wild, so there was special need to try to propagate it. I also work with Taxus floridana, another rare species.
That's a Florida
related.
yew.
Florida yew. And then a rhododendron chapmanii, Chapman's rhododendron, which is the most heat-tolerant rhododendron. The rhododendron was found 2 places, maybe 2,000 plants in the wild. One location was on a military tank base, and they were getting run over. So the problem were people were digging them from the wild, so I was basically looking at conventional propagation, horticulture, and also tissue culture to try to preserve them. And the conifers were difficult in tissue culture, and the most success I had was with the rhododendron, which is like a weed in tissue culture. But the Torreya, I managed to go out to I was in Gainesville, but the Apalachicola bluffs and area were, 2.5 hour drive away, and I had official connections with the state park, and they allowed me to wander around and actually collect specimens, get soil samples. We were looking at mycorrhizae and other things.
Now, when you say specimens, you mean branchlets?
Cuttings, basically, yeah.
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 Yeah, and say what you were able to do with those branchlets and what you were doing with them.
Basically, we learned propagation techniques, and you pretty much have that, I think, up on the web page. We definitely found out that the lateral branches will only grow laterally, so you've got to get multiple upright shoots to get a cutting that will grow upright. If not, you might have a nice ground cover,
Right.
which will fruit and produce seeds, which will grow up normal. But plagiotrophic growth is there's certain primitive plants that won't just normally form a new upright leader shoot. A couple instances in the state park and also at the Norlina where basal swelling or shoots would come up, 50 shoots coming from a burr type.
Oh, right,
So,
and then you can just cut those, harvest
yeah.
those, yeah.
So, and we were trying to induce those and things, but basically it was a non-economic plant, so I didn't have a lot of support except, they let me play with it. And
and this was early 80s?
The mid 81 to 85, I think I finished in 85.
Right, and what was I think we've got online your...
Basically, it's clonal propagation of 3 endangered species, Torreya, the Florida taxus, and rhododendron chapmanii.
Right.
And you do have the dissertation online, I believe.
Yep.
Which adds the propagation methods, the recommended times and treatments and that sort of thing.
Right. And along the way, you discerned that the mycorrhizal fungi were important for this, as it is for, other conifers.
Right. One of my professors was into mycorrhizae on ornamental plants, and they found that a wide variety of plants grown in pots benefit from mycorrhizae. It increases their ability to take up nutrients.
Lee's also been very, very active as a bioregionalist. Some of the other things you've done is mapping out the old growth.
Yes, old growth in the southern Appalachians, especially in the public Pisgah and Nantahala National Forests.
Right. Who are some of the people you've worked with in that regard?
Rob Messick, who was a field agent who identified about 70,000 acres of old growth, and about ruined his knees doing it, but pointing out to the Forest Service, these are old growth, you need to have special care for them, and bringing that attention to the public and kind of, making public aware that we need to police the the Forest Service for these non-economic plants that are important.
Right, right. So, again, what's your sense of Florida Torreya in North Carolina?
Oh, I think it does well. I mean, some of the best specimens we have were, at the Biltmore and then down in Norlina.
Right.
So they seem to do very well here. Us kind of distributing them farther north, we're finding out more how winter hardy truly they are.
Right.
And so I think that's a wonderful thing that this group is doing, is helping to evaluate, possible future ranges.
Right.
And I went to a conference a couple years ago. Our climate is going to be Atlanta in like 10 years here.
Ooh.
And there's 18 different models showing the same thing. So I like the idea that we've got some growing higher up elevation to test that adaptability.
And also canyons, deep canyons and north-facing slopes can become real refugia here in the Appalachians.
A little cooler and more moist, yeah.
Right, right, yeah.
And we are having more fluctuations. Right now we're like 3 inches down on the year on rainfall. And 4 or 5 years back, we were up to a foot below, and there are places up here that only get 40 to 50 inches a year, if that much. Asheville's the driest place in North Carolina, and 50 miles away is the wettest. High mountains. So a lot of range of temperatures and moisture.
Right, right. So talk to us now about the very earliest action of Torreya Guardians. It was you who coordinated with the Biltmore, Bill Alexander, and got seeds. Talk to us about how that came about.
I had actually, when I did my graduate work, communicated with Biltmore and came up and collected cuttings and samples back in the mid-'80s. So that's when I made a connection with Bill Alexander. And then amazingly, just bumping into you and Michael at a dinner party 15 years ago and discussing that we both had an interest in Torreya kind of got me interested. And I contacted Biltmore, and they gave us seeds, and we started just, we put information out to anybody who wanted some. We'd send them a packet of 20.
Right.
And I tried to sort them where I thought we had a variety of males and females so that we could make reproducing populations wherever we'd send them out. We didn't want to send out 1 or 2 trees. We wanted to send out enough so that it could possibly be seed sources.
Right, because they come in male and females. And just a point of clarification for viewers here, regular scientists would not be able to do that. But Lee Barnes is one of the best known claimed dowsers in the nation. And so just mention to us a little bit about how you did the dowsing. And then, viewers can decide on their own whether they want.
Right. There's a long technique of sexing chicken eggs by dowsing. You can also hold them by candlelight, but that takes more time. And there's just something different between male and female, how the energy fields around the seeds. And so I asked my pendulum to show me one direction if it's a female, another direction for a male. So I would sort the seeds, those 20s, to make sure we had a fairly equal mix. Of course, different seed batches had different ratios, but pretty much 50-50. And it'll take, 15 to 20 years before you get sex expression to prove whether I'm right or wrong. But I think it's intuition, and I have quite a fondness for the plant, and I think it wants to help me learn how to grow it and share it. Yeah.
That's great. And in fact, one of the things that I most enjoy about Torreya Guardians, because we're not a government operation, we're not a nonprofit operation, is that we're just this loose consortium of citizens, and we bring, my nerdy science, your dowsing plus nerdy science, people's great horticultural skills, and I just love that people experiment in different ways.
What impresses me most about this group is it just takes a dedication of a handful of people to make a difference. We've sent seeds, a dozen or so arboretum in the U.S.
Yes.
And so, and we're getting some feedback on how well they do.
Right.
And I think we're particularly interested in pushing the northern edge. And the University of Georgia, they have a little money with the Botanical Gardens to study Georgia area, but not farther north. And they're not allowed to send except to nonprofit groups share any seeds.
Right, right. And we just got University of Alabama, Huntsville, professor there, who I'll have in another video, who's starting actual experiments. She has a lot of tissue culture capacity and genetics and so forth. So I'm really looking forward to that.
See how much difference between the strains and the sources are.
Yeah, you know, and we have people that are just incredibly skilled, like what you have here, in getting them growing with help, you know, to try to get them, you know, maximally established.
Well, there was
and
very little literature
seeds.
about, you know, how to grow them, and so we've kind of started from, you know, trying to grow them, chill them in a refrigerator, which we found after a couple years didn't work well, to, you know, immediately putting the seeds in the ground and letting them go through the natural fluctuations, never dry out, and they seem to do much better.
Right.
And we're basically kind of testing cold hardiness to see, by going how far north, there's indirect evidence that they're probably hardy to 10 or 15 below zero.
Right. Right, and in fact, Dane Ballard up in New Hampshire, what did he have? Minus 14 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 or 4 days. And when he reported back after spring hit, you can see any desiccation, he had no winter desiccation.
Wow.
Whereas Fred Bass, who's a professional landscaper in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio area, he anticipated problems, so he did the anti-desiccation spray on his. So everybody's trying these different things. My little forte is that I'm experimenting with how can they be free planted in a forest with the best protection against rodents that isn't artificial. So I've learned the hard way that you don't put them under logs. You put them under rocks, but not too big. If they're too big, the voles will get in them. And now I'm experimenting with just putting them in the forest, but 4 to 5 inches deep so that a squirrel can't smell them. So anyway, each of us has our own thing, you know, that we're kind of contributing to it.
And the rarity of the plant, you know, limited us doing, you know, random experiments and, you know, just huge numbers of seeds.
Right.
In my graduate career, I had access to maybe 10 seeds.
Wow.
And a lot of cutting material, but just a limited number of
Very
seeds.
limited, yeah.
So.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I found was that when I was initially understanding Torreya, I learned that Bill Alexander had independently come up with that same idea a good 10 years before I did. Because, you know, he was working there with the Biltmore, the 70, 80-year-old grove of Torreyas there. And
He's the forest historian there.
Yes, and he independently had the same idea. Apalachicola, peak glacial reserve, big seed, how is it going to move north, you know? So he played a really, I think he retired this year or last.
Okay.
Yeah, but he played, I consider him, whether, you know, he's called or not, you and I were the two.
He was very important to get us started, to put seeds in our hands that we could further distribute to others to play with.
Right, right. And then the third really crucial one, really, and continuing very crucial, Jack Johnston, he came in with our 2008 planting, and he's just been absolutely vital to what we do. So Lee, any other final words for anyone that is in the future, maybe seeing this video and wants to think about helping Florida Torreya? Any final words you have about it?
Well, educate yourself about climate change and the need to assist survival of, you know, plants. And if not Torreya, find some other one that you see as a need and become a guardian of it. And it all comes down to the individual effort. And with no budget, with no support, we've done a lot. You know, basically I've paid for mailing out of my pocket, but, you know, that's not been a problem. And, you know, the goodwill of other people to take seeds and try to grow them.
Right, and you have that experience, because talk about in general your seed savers work that you've done with permaculture and so forth here.
I've been involved with promoting seed saving of local and heirloom plants, wild and domesticated, for probably 25 years. And I do 2 or 3 major seed exchanges with the Carolina Farm Stewardship and an organic growers school here. And I was honored 2 years ago as Activist of the Year for promoting seed saving, not necessarily Torreya, but just for local varieties and the importance for preserving all varieties of food, because it's like the Torreya. Once you lose it, it's gone. You can't just bring it back in an instant. Millions of years of evolution to produce something like this. And people say, why mess with an uneconomic plant? Well, it's a living being, and it's a thing of beauty, and it's something, we want to keep all the pieces the best we can. So that kind of what drives me, and just a passion for anything is good. I happen to like endangered tree species. So that's basically my story.
Okay, Lee. Well, thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Happy trails.
All right.
Bye-bye.
May the forest be with you.
May the forest be with you.